Listener discretion is advised. Hello and welcome to Scary Time, the podcast that helps you find new, emerging, and undiscovered scary and paranormal podcasts. I'm Greg, the host and curator of Scary Time. Today's episode is from Mission Spooky. Mission Spooky is a bi-weekly podcast where history meets the peculiar and the paranormal. If you like today's episode, make sure to check out the episode description for links to subscribe. All right, let's get this show started.
Begin.
You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
3, 2, 1.
Spook. We are gathered here as advisors, as scientists.
The kind of place we expect a ghost to like to wander around.
Hey, we all know that we're going to die, baby.
I'll help you. I'm something of a witch.
Welcome to Mission Spooky. I'm your fantastic host, JC. With me today, as per usual, the queen of everything herself, Kiki, our local cryptid enthusiast, Cord, and someone from across the pond. Kiki, why don't you introduce our special guest here?
Today, we are absolutely delighted to have writer-director George Popov joining us today. He is known for indie horror films such as Hex from 2017, The Droving from 2020, and the docuseries that captured my attention, SIDEWORLD. Good to have you here today. How you doing?
Well, thanks, guys. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me. Yeah, and this is going to be great.
Stay positive. That's what I do.
Oh yeah, no. We'll make it through. Like I said, I have a bit of a cold or hay fever, whatever is going on now. So we'll make it through, and we'll get to the other side of the supernatural film world. So yeah. Before
we officially get into the real meat of it, I want to know, did you have a personal experience that kind of triggered your interest in the paranormal and folklore, or was it just always like you just like the stories?
Oh, you mean like a supernatural one?
Yeah.
No, not really. I think it all started from the storytelling passion. I think it was the combination of first being a fan of a few horror films when I was young, and probably way too young for my parents to allow me to watch, all of them. But mainly stuff like Alien and all the really atmospheric visual stuff, which I absolutely adored while being afraid of it. And then all kinds of fantasy and romantic stuff like Lord of the Rings and really awesome, all kinds of stories that include a lot of myths and legends. I love dark fairy tales, mythology, Greek, whatever. So I think with the years, the mixture of all those and trying to find and tell my own stories in the fictional work and in like it also is in the two narrative feature films you mentioned. Then after that sort of crystallized with me and Jonathan, my writing partner, that it was a lot of the history as well and the folklore that we're really interested in.
I just watched Hex most recently. It kind of went backward. I watched SIDEWORLD first and then went back and watched the horror films after.
Oh, geez.
Oh, no. So you made Hex on a budget of £1,000. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, we did beg for a lot of things that otherwise would cost money. So that doesn't count. I guess if we were paying for everything, it would be more than that. But yeah, no, that was us right at the beginning. That was our first feature film. We just made the company. Yeah, that was us trying to tell a story. So yeah.
Well, I watched it and I was like, what? This was only £1,000. That's roughly for Americans. It's like $1,300. Yeah. 4 actors and basically using the woods as your background and your stage, which was amazing. Anyway, it's gorgeous.
Well, no, thank you. Well, first of all, that was one of the things that I really paid attention to because I was aware that we're not going to be the only indie filmmakers trying to make a cheap movie in the woods. So I was like, how'd you make something stand out of like, my encounter with Bigfoot or something. A lot of care went into selecting the locations of it, and which I think they absolutely help us. But no, it was a great experience, and it was a story that we really cared about, and I think the response that we got from the film, especially critically, was a lot higher than what we expected for that price, for sure.
Yeah, we do no spoiler reviews because I obviously want everybody to go watch these things. But the ending as someone who is definitely a practicing heathen, I was like, oh wow. Yeah, that got me.
Yeah,
Well
sorry. I
done.
mean, it was. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'll try not to, ruin everybody else who wants to watch it. But it's still something that I believe in quite a lot, and try to set up a story that you might think you're going into one genre and telling one thing, and then maybe with time we'll slowly unveil a different sort of truth to it.
And the next film, The Droving, after that, does exactly that. Again, great job of getting me feeling like, yes, we were definitely going in one genre, and then just bam, nope. And then the ending was like, what? It was so good. It was so good.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that, of course. And yeah, I just like films, especially when we're starting out, like sort of at the beginning of our careers and trying to, make every next film bigger and more exciting. Something that you can do on the cheap is trying to make your film not as predictable as everything else and sort of offer something new, especially if you're treading in a genre where there is a lot of different stuff, and a lot of them are done so greatly that I think trying to make it even more personal and interesting and see things from a different perspective, and every time you pull that rug under the viewer's feet, I think they love it. It's like another roller coaster ride in terms of like Avengers Endgame, but like on a knowing how you feel and where you sit, and like in one moment you feel like, yeah, this is awesome, and the next moment you feel dirty that you felt that way. I love that.
That is a good way to explain it. Yeah, exactly. I'm seeing a connection though, maybe. I don't know. Seems like the Hex was Haunted Forest of England, maybe. And then the Droving seems like maybe Damnation Village. Well, I'll get into those more in a minute. And so the first SIDEWORLD from the documentary series that I watched was Terrors of the Sea. So the first thing I need to know is, are we going to see a third horror film with that sea folktale genre from you?
Oh, one day for sure. Absolutely. I think maybe it's not going to be as neatly 1, 2, 3 on one side and then on the other. It might not be immediately the next one, but I think that's inevitable because that's the sort of the areas and biomes, if you will, or those kind of like subgenres of legends and stories and places that we explore in the documentaries absolutely come from us looking around for wonderful locations and stories and inspiration for those feature films. So it wasn't as predetermined as it might seem, but it was very natural going back into some of the places where we shot before and be like, is that forest actually haunted? Like, let's look into that. And it will be no surprise there is one particular location of Hex that's it's an amalgamation of different forests, but one of them is featured as the second chapter of Haunted Forests of England, which is Cannock Chase.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there is a lot running through that, but yeah, you well spotted for sure.
So back to SIDEWORLD. So in case people are not aware, although I've talked it up on both Twitter and a little bit on Instagram already, that series has 3 installments so far. So Haunted Forest of England, Terrors of the Sea, and then Damnation Village. And each one has a couple of different frightening tales, myths, and folklore that go into each one. Of course, they're around that biome, like you just said. Yeah, the Terrors of the Sea one was the first one. And I saw the same thing in the next couple after that, which was like one of the stories, each one I had heard of. The rest of them, just totally never heard of these before. And I love that. That was a lot of fun. So this is the other reason that all 3 of us are recommending that everybody go watch these because, first of all, beautifully shot. Like, I'm trying to think of how to say this, but was there like a specific influence in the world of documentaries for you when you were doing this? Because that's the difference between, I think, what I've seen in other quote documentaries of like paranormal events. Yeah. This is so beautiful.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. And I think the right answer is no. I think I'm a complete idiot when it comes to documentaries and how to shoot them. And I think that's what sets those apart, because I was just, when we're thinking about the idea, and Jonathan was who suggested about like that we had a lot to say on this with all our previous research and kind of interest in those things. And I said, sure, but I don't know the first thing. I mean, I like watching them, sipping some tea and chilling while watching some serial killers on Netflix. Great. It's a great evening. But, and some others, I mean, obviously I love Werner Herzog documentaries and I can cite that and a lot of other BBC stuff as well. But I started trying to figure out how to do it in a way that fits with who we are. And I just realized, what if I think of it the same way that I think of the atmosphere of the fictional films, of trying to put, like, the music will be as if it's from a fictional film, the visuals as well. And then it's just the narration and all the other parts of it. They're going to make it feel like a documentary. So me and my cinematographer, Richard Suckling, we absolutely looked at it and tried to shoot it as if there was actors in those shots. It's just sometimes the actors were the tree or the stone or the building, or we shot as if there is a figure there as well. It wasn't in the shot, but we left that space for it. And the same with the color grade and everything else. So yeah, that's my answer. Is like, I absolutely cheated and just went and tried to treat them as cinematically as possible, and have people be welcomed into that. Really make it into a world, a side world where you can just grab a warm drink and kind of like, sit on your bed and enjoy them as well as tales and as atmosphere, not only as dry information.
It seemed to work out pretty good in your favor.
Thank you.
I particularly enjoyed in Damnation Village the rain shots of like the churches and stuff. They were really cool.
Yeah, the nature was really, really helpful. It usually tended to be sunny when we needed it to be, and to rain when we needed it to be. No, it was. That's also a great experience with documentaries. It also helps with the other parts of indie filmmaking, that sometimes you really have to make the best lemonade out of your lemons, and I personally love lemons. I don't even understand the analogy.
Hell yeah!
but yeah, I'm that guy that if you're drinking your Coke, and I'll be like, are you eating the lemon after that? Like, and I'll just shove the whole thing in my mouth. So yeah, like sometimes you can take all these chances that are given to you, and you have to make the best out of it with just your camera. And the more limitations you have, especially in documentary, in terms of the time, and it's an even smaller crew, and like I said, no actors to bail you out with a wonderful performance. That puts more emphasis, even more on the feel and the visuals and your angles, and every single little detail becomes what usually will be a tiny whisper in a fictional film becomes a loud shout when that's all you're giving your audience. So I love that, and I think it's made me a better filmmaker for the fictional stuff. So for our next narrative film, I think I hope it's going to be even better, because those documentaries really make you work for every single little piece.
Of the three of the documentaries, do you have a favorite?
Well, I mean, it's I think it's with every director, is like your favorite one is always like the last one and the next one. That's how it goes. But no, it's difficult to say. We somehow made 3 feature-length documentaries in a single year, a little bit more with a few months on top on research and preparation, which was a bit crazy, and we're not going to do that again. We'll slow it down a little bit. So I haven't had like much time to watch them in between the films, because it was just on to the next one. But I know it's a cop-out answer, but to me, they really feel like they're different shards of the same mirror piece, and there's something I like about each and every one. But a very new and sort of probably the most crystallized one, it seems to me to be like of Damnation Village, which is the last one. Its last chapter, which was about the plague village of Eam. I think that one seems to strike quite a chord with the audience. A lot of people said that we really hit it there, and I can understand why.
And that one was the village that I did know about. I knew a lot of the history about that, but yet you kind of,
because you were there in
there we
what
go.
was it, 1666?
Yeah.
Is that why you knew a lot of history? Every time I have to make fun of that she's old.
Oh yeah. Well done on surviving. First of all, that was very, very brave of you.
Thank you. Yes.
If I would have known that when we were filming, we would have had like a great little piece. But
you could have just called me up. I would have.
I know.
I would have flown over. It's fine.
Oh yeah, old Ben. Yeah. He was a good dude. Small penis though, but really cool dude.
Things Kiki cuts from the episode. We don't talk about Ben's penis. Come on, man.
We show it.
Well,
that stays in the podcast. It didn't matter, I guess, is the best way to say it. It was still really interesting the way you presented it. So
Yeah, absolutely, and it was just one of those things that it didn't really feel like you needed to go too much into the paranormal angle because it was less interesting for once than the actual history. Because we were gonna go into all the sightings and everything and explain, all the different ghosts that related to the plague victims, but it seemed like it was a very after the actual ordeal of what happened of the horrors of the plague, having like and then Bobby moved the glass a little bit in the pub, that seemed that it wouldn't have worked quite as well. So we just left it as it was, and yeah, it was a very striking place for sure.
Yeah, I'm disappointed though because you could have had, somebody come in and shout at Bobby about moving the glass. I mean,
Well,
that's a
that's what
missed
happens. I
opportunity.
think
Yeah.
ghosts here in England in the pubs are so common that they're more of a nuisance than than anything else. I think they should even they're not even getting paid any wages for basically taking care of the pub at this point. So there is a lot there that can be explored.
Okay, so you are originally from Bulgaria.
Hmm.
Are you going to be doing anything at all about folk tales from Bulgaria?
Oh yeah, it's inevitable. We're gonna end up there. It's you can't escape from your Balkan curse. That's we're all either like half vampires or half werewolves or something else back there. So it's a great region and I love it dearly. And there's a lot that I want to do there, both on the documentary and fictional side, because it's such a great combination of cultures in not that huge of a territory, and that's where obviously a lot of problems come from, but also a lot of lovely stuff come from. Kind of reminds me of another modern country, but
Is it America?
Yes, yes, it is. Because you have Bulgaria, you have Romania, you have Turkey, you have Greece, you have a bunch of other ones that I don't want to mention, but though there's a great combination of all these stories and it's such a crossroads in the world between Europe and Asia, and Africa is not very far either. It's so many things have happened in terms of different peoples and religions and beliefs, and there's a lot of pagan stuff that still remain despite whoever's Christian or Muslim at this point. So no, it is very interesting. It's very fascinating. It's a very unexplored part of the world from a folkloric point of view as well. I mean, there is some few famous tales, like I said, all the vampires and werewolves and stuff. But I think there is a lot more to it, and yeah, I would absolutely love to.
Wait, what's a vampire? I've never heard of them.
You can come along and we'll show you.
Oh, okay.
It's just be careful where you ask that question. You might left a little bit drained from the experience.
Adam.
Oh man, yes, pun.
Bad puns are part of like a vampire history. That's it's in the books. But no, I think there's a lot of weird stuff that people still believe, but I'm usually left with the impression it's more on the sort of superstitious side and sort of like a healthy metaphoric way of thinking about it, not as much as like actually believing it or dogma, a sort of way of thinking. It's just a lot of, like I said, mixture of tales and a lot of weird things that have happened. I mean, recently as well in Bulgaria, there had been quite a few interesting finds that are quite difficult to disprove. Like, for example, the tomb with these bodies that they discovered from the medieval ages, that the skeletons did have really long fangs and they had wooden stakes in their chests. So that's a bit difficult to explain when you find that in a crypt. If it's just a coincidence or a hoax.
Now I'm going to be looking at bodies with the face in them. I was like, wait, what?
Uh-oh.
What did they find?
Uh-oh.
What happened?
Oh yeah, it's worth the googling. I mean, and it's like I said, if we do make a SIDEWORLD piece on that, it will have to be its own trilogy, because so many crazy stories there. And you can take it from vampires to werewolves to aliens. Quite a few crazy stories there that's difficult to believe.
Now you say crazy, I say very reasonable and logical alien.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I think especially when you hear alien stories coming from like a 90-year-old granny that lived in the forest her whole life, and the last thing she remembers is the invention of the trebuchet or something, and they're interviewing her about what she saw, and she's describing literally aliens out of a Spielberg film accurately, scientifically, just not using the right terms because she's, not exactly the king of pop culture. But that is fascinating, and every time you see stories like that, I mean, there's examples of that, those kind of eyewitnesses in America too, or especially in Brazil. There's quite a few famous cases where that happened, where you see these people that are not quite the ones who want to be in front of a camera talking about discrediting themselves in their eyes, talking about things that people might consider outlandish, but they describe them almost as if they were completely aware of the whole subculture. But no, it's sounds very legit, at least.
You are listening to an episode of Mission Spooky on True Crime by Indie Drop-In Network. We're going to take a quick break. And back to this episode of Mission Spooky.
You guys have any questions? Because I don't want to,
Yes, the one that does all the research and prep is the one doing. What did you think I was going to do in this, Kiki?
I don't know. You did watch them. Come on.
For a second, I thought that was a question for me. It's like, who's the one who's doing all the research and the prep? And I was like, not me. Like, I don't.
Who does do all the research?
You have your own research to do, sir.
We do everything together, but Jonathan Russell, we produce them together, and he produces them, and we write them together, and we've done everything with our company, Rubicon Films, pretty much together from the beginning. He puts a lot of the pen to paper stuff, but no, the research is split, but I usually come with the ideas, and then he helps me, obviously turn them into text that sounds not written by an idiot. So, and then I try to read it properly. So it's but also he doesn't like speaking to way too much. So it's a really good combination of the two things.
I was going to say, to be fair, so our listeners know, I did ask Jonathan if he wanted to join us, and he wrote back and said no.
That's
Politely declining, saying, I'm the guy in the background. George does all the talking. It was very sweet.
No, he is very sweet, and he is wonderful, and he is the absolutely the man in the chair, and I'm just sort of like he's the ventriloquist and I'm the puppet. so no, it's great, and no, it's a really good thing, especially in filmmaking, when we have obviously similar relationship with our music composer, with our cinematographer, with everybody else involved, and that we work on SIDEWORLD or on the other films. But right on the core, when you start all these projects and you sort of conceive them together, it's really good to have someone who we kind of cover up each other's deficiencies. But you guys, you work together, and you know that very well.
Yeah, I cover for these idiots.
Yes, we work together. Yes.
I don't just turn up.
Man, he already knows you, dude. He already knows you.
I do my research. There we go. We came a full circle.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Speaking of working with people over again, Daniel Oldroyd is in both of your films.
Yes.
Hex and The Droving. Was that just was he someone you knew, or how did that happen that he was in both?
He was the only actor who returned the call. No, no, I'm joking. That's not the case. Not that we called everyone, obviously, but no, Dan's awesome. Actually, it's because we originally cast him for a completely different film that didn't happen, and that was supposed to be our first feature film. And then when we sort of changed our minds and kind of went a different direction, and we went for Hex, then Dan was on my mind because of the audition that he did. And for people who know, or for people who don't, which is most of the people, there is two prominent male characters, and one is sort of more of a kind of religious and good-natured character who fights on the parliamentarian side of the English in the English Civil War, and the other one is the royalist soldier Richard, which what Dan plays. And Dan is so much like not your typical super macho, aggressive, toxic guy. So, and the character we cast him for in the other film was nothing like it either. When I called him for Hex, and he read the script, and he says like, "Yeah, I really like it, and I think you'll be it would be good for me. I think I can figure out how to do Thomas. I'm like, well, what Thomas? I'm not talking about Thomas. I'm talking about you play the other guy. He's like, well, what, the one that fights and everything? It's like, yeah, that one. So that was a great thing to do because I think it took him out of his comfort zone and the way I cast. And I think that coming back to what you said about Hex and the Droving, I do hope it comes across, is like I like to cast characters for where they end up and who they are really on the inside, rather than what's the mask that they're wearing. I think you get much more interesting and layered performances out of that than for someone like, oh, you're bald and so fat, you'll be the tough guy pig character. And it's like, I think there is a lot more to it when especially when you're dealing with a very intelligent actor and someone who's kind of in tune and you have a great rapport together, to explore a character where if you build those layers into your script, that you peel them off. And what's going to be a lot more difficult is where they end up, because everything else, like who they pretend to be, like I can help a lot with that. I can sort of edit the film and score it and shoot it in a way that I can help build that mask. But if they can't really perform the person who they really are, I think that's more difficult. So yeah, it was great to work with them. And then when the Droving came up, and that was even more so of a character like this that had many layers to and complexities, then I said, yeah, it might be sort of like easy, but like yeah, let's do a Bob De Niro Scorsese thing. Not that I'm comparing us to that, but that sort of relationship. And I'd love to work with him again.
He killed both parts as far as I'm concerned as the watcher. I enjoy, and William Young played Thomas then in Hex. He did a great job as well. They were awesome together, kind of playing off each other. And then to watch him, I had watched him in the Droving first. Like I said, I kind of did everything backwards. That's another ending that's like, oh man.
Yeah.
Brilliant ending.
I guess I do those oh man endings. So
you do.
You just hope it's
darn good though.
Well, thank you very much. We'll keep trying.
I do legally have to ask, what's your favorite cryptid?
My favorite cryptid?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's a good legal question.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess they're favorite for different reasons. Like I can't. Well, obviously, aliens is not a cryptid. It's like a subgenre, but that's where it all started. But then when I got into cryptids, I was a lot into Bigfoot stories, but not too much into Bigfoot itself, because it just seemed a bit boring. Like it just seemed like a big monkey. I think more recently I got more interested in it because the stories got a lot more varied and crazy. But don't know. I'm a bit of a Mothman, man. I guess.
Hell yeah.
Mothman's a good choice.
West Virginia, mountain mama, take me home, country roads. Yeah. So a little bit of that. I have to say a lot of great stories there, and I don't even know half of the ones I really wanna hear. So a lot of great stories, but yeah, I have to say that because it's just nuts and good visual as well.
I had a question about. See, I have a question, but I'm thinking about how I want to word this.
Go with the question. I'll word it for you.
Okay, so like, how much of the SIDEWORLD stuff is research compared to just story gathering from like wherever you guys are getting the stories from? Any like research farther than just story collecting, or like how deep down the rabbit hole are you guys going?
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good question, because you're right, there is a difference. I think it's a bit of both, because initially one of the most interesting things about it is the stories themselves, right? So you might have seen with SIDEWORLD, and it's something that we definitely want to make sure that it's part of what we do, that a lot of the conclusions are made by the viewer rather than ourselves. Because it seems so interesting that if you lean more towards one or the other, I'm not usually a huge fan of documentaries that without, even 80-90% of the evidence, they really just jump to a conclusion. They start with the thesis and then they end up with like, and now I'm going to lay out all the examples I have that only support the theory I want to be making, right?
Mm-hmm. I 100% agree with you. I just stopped watching a documentary because I was like, bro, do not put my thoughts in my brain for me.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think people are getting smarter and smarter and realizing that that's not great. And that's one of the initial reasons, because I had I was a bit afraid of documentaries, is because I felt this responsibility where I don't want to be that guy.
You don't want to accidentally push a narrative.
Yeah, exactly, absolutely. Where with the narrative films, like, I don't worry. It's like, oh, I made everything up. Like, and I do have a narrative, and I do have something to say. And like, if you agree with me, like, great. If you don't, go fuck yourself. Like, I don't care. It's a movie, right? Like, that's fine.
I'm sorry.
Right.
Are you sure that you're from Bulgaria and not from Philadelphia? Because that's
Yeah, right.
That's a very Philly thing to say. Yes.
That was a very downtown Philly way to go about it.
Yeah, well, I've been watching a lot of Rocky recently, so maybe that is it, you know.
That checks
So
out.
and also, like, you know how we said, like, you know, being born, you know, like, oh, I'm fucked, you know. I think Philadelphia and the Balkans, like, I
He's
think
not wrong. He's not. Yeah, that tracks.
That tracks.
You're an honorary Philadelphian now, just FYI.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's like it's those things of like having like a great history of glory, and now you're like, you know, that's like, how can we ever live up to that? I think that has a lot in common.
Yeah.
Like, Bulgaria ruled half of Europe at some point. It's like now it's like, have you heard of us? Have you read Harry Potter? Do you remember that one book? It's like
That one, Harry Potter.
Yeah, the fourth one, the guy, the one dude, he's from here. That's where.
Yeah. You know,
The one where they again painted us all as really bad guys.
yeah, exactly. But he was under mind control. Trust me. You know, definitely. And he said no to Hermione. She was underage. So yeah, he was decent, you know, not like the other guys.
To be fair, that's a +1 for him.
Exactly. So, where were we? But no. Anyway. But sorry. That's my Philadelphia bit.
Not pushing. Very well done. You were saying you're not pushing a narrative, which
yes, thank you very much. Yeah,
we appreciate, because
that's
neither do we.
No. Yeah, that's something that, and sometimes it's you know, you give an opinion. It's like, hey, we think that this might be a good reason why this happened, or we think this might be a good theory behind it that we've seen other people say, and I find this more legit than the other ones. And we don't mention the ones that we didn't like to include, and we're mentioning the ones that we do like to include. But like, it's good to have two sides to the story. I think that's how truth is born or discovered, is by having a discussion, which again in modern day is usually difficult to happen. So yeah, but I think that's an important part of what we do, and that's when you want to present the stories, and you want to also do a bit of research. Let's say if we're looking from the fact and fiction thing, which SIDEWORLD's diving into, is like, what is the line between fact and fiction? Where is it? Because we say it's obscured, and we say it can be difficult, especially when you're dealing with history, folklore, stories, paranormal. Is this something that actually happened, can be explained with normal science and historical events, but then it turned into a fairy tale? Or is it something that, you know, it genuinely is supernatural, and that's what there is a legend to it. There's so many things of how it can be seen. And just because one story might turn out to be true, that doesn't mean that the next one will. So if you try to give a blind statement of just being like, oh, I'm a believer, then that means you're just sort of like, you're covering a lot of other stuff that you don't have to. Like, you can be a believer in the stories that make sense, or there's something to it, and then you can be a non-believer in the ones where you know that the facts are different. I hate just being kind of like supporter of, like, I'm a supporter of this one group that needs to blanketly believe in, you know, I leave that to sports, right? It's like, I'm a Denver Broncos fan, right? Which is, it hurt a lot last year. And, you know, I lived in Colorado for some time, and it's great. Now I can go like, fuck the Raiders, I don't give a shit, you know?
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
I see no problem with anything he said so far. Keep going.
No.
All right, I guess we're fighting today, huh? We're fighting today?
Yeah. Well,
all right.
Any Raiders fan can beat me up. That I know, but that's part of my point.
They have to get strong because their team is so weak.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what? I'm not even going to argue that. You're 100% correct most years.
Gotta be a savage about something. But that's what I mean. That's where we, like, I love that. And that's why, it's because it doesn't matter. it's pretend, it's a sport, it's a game.
Right. Yep.
Right? Like we can all just say like, oh, we're all good and you're all bad, because that's fun. We're all participating in that to get the stupid tribal primate mind of
Yep.
who we used to be out of our systems.
Yeah, used to.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, that's my idealistic brain talking, right? But when it comes to truths, when it comes to like other topics that really actually matter, or we're trying to discover something, I think you have to be looking at both sides. So yeah, a very long-winded, different topical answer to your question. But I think the gathering of stories is to cover the one basis of just being able to be like, hey, here's all the stories and what people said of like, how this creature, these people found it, back in the day, they talked to this if it was real. Then the scientist came in and said, well, no, this has a background in this. And then you have this other family who says, well, it doesn't matter if it's real or not, but actually because of it, this thing happened to us, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the story matters. So you have these, different truths that are fighting against each other. And sometimes it matters, sometimes it doesn't, like I said. Sometimes just the existence of the story is what matters and what the story means. I think in that research, we try to keep an open mind. And if there is an opinion, it's more like in where we find the value when I said in the documentaries rather than necessarily the truth, because that can be obscure and I don't want that baggage necessarily.
Right. That's fair.
Yeah, we have the same problem in archaeology where it's you come up with a theory and then you go try to find your evidence. And for a long time there, people would just find the evidence that fit what they wanted, and then they'd write their paper and it was a bunch of garbage. They weren't talking about all the other parts that were missing, for example, et cetera, et cetera. And it's we've talked about this several times before on the podcast in different ways, but that we did not ever want to like push a certain agenda or a certain narrative when it comes to talking about history, because I'm doing the research. Here's what happened. Like, here's what we know happened, the paranormal side of it. Here's the stories that go with that. And I take a 14 approach. So I'm like, I'm not going to say whether or not they did or didn't happen. That's not up to me. Here's the stories. Like, now you decide what you think based on the evidence that we have. And that's probably one of the reasons why I love SIDEWORLD so much, is that you're doing the same thing and it's fun. It's fun. Like, I love the history. I love all the research that you guys have done. And then I love the stories behind it. Like the Terrors of the Sea one had so many cool things. I can't. I have a total brain fart. I can't remember the name of the ship, but it was the one where oh gosh, there was the murder on the ship and it was on fire.
The Lady Lovibond. Yeah. The ghost ship. Yeah.
Yes. I had never heard that story before, and that was so cool. And I like how you mentioned, you were like, well, not too much of a spoiler, but because you could go read.
Oh yeah, whatever. Yeah.
But you were like, they've come back again the next year to see if this is true, right? Because this is something that supposedly happens every 50 years, was it?
Yeah.
50 years with that. And then, so that's something that might, quote, be able to be tracked. So I like those stories too, because you're like, okay, on this day at this hour, we're going to go to this location and we're going to see if we can find this damn ghost. I won't say what happened. Go watch Terrors of the Sea. Watch that one first, guys. I'm serious. All three of them are great. I will say that is my favorite one so far.
Well, great. We should have made that one first then. But if that's the right order.
Just for me. Yeah.
Yeah. No. I get you. No, you're right. And thank you very much for everything you're saying. And I definitely see which one's the clever one.
Me.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say, obviously.
It makes sense. Yeah.
It does. But no. Thank you very much. And no, it is. I think in Terrors, and really, honestly, the order of what we made them, it doesn't matter. Like I said, they're very interchangeable in how you watch them. But it was. I found a great journey with that one, because it's difficult not to talk about the horrors of the scene, all these things, but also not get romantic. Like there's something about those stories. They're usually of a certain period, and especially. Kind of post-medieval era where you're getting into the romanticism of the 19th century, and you're getting to the ghost stories get into a particular way, and the ghost ships, and even the monster stories. And it's a wonderful topic, and we discovered a lot of stories I've never heard of, and that's a really good example, that one. And another one that's really good in terms of talking about the factual and fictional stuff, is the story that we end on, which is the Merman, the Wild Man of Orford, where there is this like written chronicled account of this castle where this man mermaid thing was found in the sea by fishermen, and then they took him to the castle and they did studies, and of course they tortured him because that's how people back in the day was trying to learn things, which is horrible. And they fed him raw fish and everything, and then you see what happens to him in the end. But that was something that it sounds so ridiculous when you talk about mermaids and things like that. Of course, I mean, he didn't have a fishtail, but he was absolutely a creature that was found in the sea, and then his behavior. But when you start to think of like, well, why would that be chronicled in the entry of a castle's history with everything else that happened in such detail, alongside how many barrels of cider were made and everything else, and someone made it up and put it in there. There's a lot of things that we don't know, and I think in Terrors of the Sea especially, there's good examples of that mindset, because on the point of view of krakens and giant squids, we went from people knowing that they existed and believing them because they were there, to like a huge period in which we all thought that was a tall tale and complete bullshit, to right back now until very recently when this guy's like, oh no, all these legends that people thought it was fairy tales, that's something, it's a creature that actually exists and it's now scientifically proven.
Here's some footage real quick.
yeah, exactly. So how many more things like that are there? I mean, we can say that there is there is normal and paranormal, there's science and what's out there, but it's at some point, are we not just calling some things paranormal that just the science is not caught up yet, and we're moving that boundary little by little, every year. So there'll be things that sound absolutely ridiculous now, that when we find out what's the real reason behind it, in the future generations, it will sound mundane.
You are listening to an episode of Mission Spooky on True Crime by Indie Drop-In Network. We're going to take a quick break. And back to this episode of Mission Spooky.
So here's the thing, listeners. We had a slight snafu, but that's okay, because George, you are episode 100 of this podcast.
Oh my! Oh really?
Yes.
Well, now I have to interrupt the podcast to me and the listeners to wish you a happy birthday, a centennial. Is that what you call it? I don't know. I don't know English that well.
Yeah.
Honestly, neither do I.
It's fine. It's all second language to all of us. And no, honestly, happy birthday, guys, and well done on an awesome podcast. And I wish you 100 times 100 more.
That is
Thank
a
you.
lot of work for me.
Hell
Yes,
yeah.
for you, not me.
We're doing the maths now in our heads for the rest of the episode. People like 100 times 100. Do I check it on my phone? Will that be embarrassing?
If we do that, we'll be close to how old Kiki is.
Hey, callback.
Dang.
Wow, 2 in 1 episode, JC.
I know. I've
So I have
been
to-
MIA for a little bit, so
I'm not gonna lie. I know this is late, but I'm really disappointed that JC didn't say a joke about Kiki being the lady in the woods that remembered when the trebuchet was invented. Like, that was a perfect time, JC. You let it
I was
fly.
thinking of saying, that would be Kiki's first child.
Jeez,
but I
man.
decided not to.
I was so disappointed. I was like, man, you missed it. And I'm not
I
going to
know.
tell you. This is your only job on the fucking podcast.
Well, it's one of 2, but yeah. Well, one of 3, I guess.
Well, Kiki, now we know why you really like Hex as well. So that's good. It was made for you.
I am the witch
also,
in the
I'm
wood.
sorry about the ending as well. So, but yeah.
It's okay. It's been happening to my people for hundreds of years. It's fine. It was very realistic.
Yeah, I know.
Now I'm gonna go have to watch Hex.
Yeah, to see what we're talking about, because otherwise none of this makes sense.
Yeah, JC. You had one job.
Well,
I did my best.
You can't watch like all 5 things. It's fine.
I did 20%.
God.
Pretty good film to fall asleep to. So I'll tell you that.
I don't know how to respond to that.
Aw.
because
Well,
like
no,
Oh,
I mean, like
God.
it's fine. I mean, like it's you gotta go with your angle. I mean, it's very peaceful until it gets really horrible. So
I was gonna say, yeah, it is really peaceful.
Don't wake up at the end.
Because none of it will make any sense if you do that.
yeah,
There's a lot of build up to it.
yes,
I
definitely.
do like slow burn horrors, so this is
Yes.
probably something Kiki should have
Yeah.
told me to watch this. Honestly,
I
I'm disappointed in
She
Kiki
told you
for
to
not
watch
telling
it.
me.
She told you to watch it months ago because she told me to. Don't worry.
No, I wasn't there.
You
I
were
even
definitely there.
provided links.
Nah.
No,
Was the
no
group
worries. Don't fight over it. You can watch it, and then you'll tell us on social media how it was,
There you
or
go.
next time when I come around for us to talk complete shit, we'll talk about it. Yeah,
Sounds good.
Hell yeah.
love it.
So for our 100th episode, we also have a really cool band. They're called the Flatwaves. They are out of Philadelphia, and the song that I chose is called Mothman.
Yeah.
Wow, that was a coincidence.
Right?
I genuinely didn't know that. No one's gonna believe, but yeah.
I can tell you guys, and they know how kind of ridiculous I am with the way that we choose our music. It was a complete coincidence. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh, so Mothman's your favorite, huh? Well,
Yeah, no, no, this is the first time I hear this. Yeah, that was not a plant, everyone. That was genuinely weird. So great.
Something synchronicities, something.
yes, that's
Something
exactly what I was
Mothman. Yeah,
It's a synchronicity.
that's the name of our band, isn't it? Something Mothman. That's a pretty.
Oh man, Flatwaves are gonna love this.
I feel like that's how most like paranormal stories go. Something Mothman, and then a bunch of people died, and that's a paranormal story.
that's it.
Written by John Keel. Thank you.
No, that's it. Well, Flatwaves, hit us up. We'll do it'd be great. Go Philadelphia. Ba-da-ba, ba-da-ba.
Okay, so we're gonna take a quick break for that music, and when we get back, we'll finish talking with George. He's gonna tell us where to find all the awesome stuff.
The break is now over.
That works. Yeah, I'm good with that.
I don't think you've ever said it that way before.
I haven't.
That's nice.
Great definitive.
Yes.
Stand up. Get out of your chair. Unless you're driving. Don't stand up there. The
Now
break's
I'll
over.
stand up for the national anthem. The break is now over.
God.
You guys are all into anthems and shit, isn't it? That's like an American thing.
Oh God,
Yeah.
no, we hate it.
Yeah.
It's so dumb.
No, our national anthem it's why I believe in God.
Well, yeah, it's why God believes in you, isn't it?
Probably because I'm an American.
Oh, American.
Man, he's already got the mentality down. He doesn't even live here, man.
He did say he was in Colorado for a little bit.
I
Yeah.
was, and it was so chill. I have to say, unironically, because we're taking the piss out of America a lot, and I know that the British audience here loves that. But no, Colorado was awesome though. Everybody was cool as hell, So
Yes,
I would love
it's the
to,
chillest
yeah.
of states. You went to the chillest of PAs or of US states.
I know,
Pennsylvania state.
I was like easy mode America, It was so cool, and I love mountains and stuff. So yeah, and
Well,
I think
they
that's what-
definitely have those there.
Yeah, it was great.
Did you go to Pikes Peak when you were out that way?
No, it was legitimate like work living thing. I didn't go as a tourist. It was like 10 years ago. So I was working in one of the resorts in Eagle County. So Vale, that area.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it was awesome. But yeah, I learned a lot about myself and some about the States, mainly that one. Because it's 50 different countries actually.
I mean, it should be.
Feels
Yeah,
that way.
because like people see it as like this one amalgamous, like yeehaw, like place where it's
Yeah,
not really.
That's just
We're not
Texas.
all Texas, everybody. We're not all Texas.
it's true.
Just because I have a cowboy hat and a collection of cowboy boots does not mean that the entirety of USA is Texas.
But I love something about each and every one place. And I mean, one of my favorite directors, not the favorite one, is Martin Scorsese. So New York as well, like everything there, and how much he loves it yet shits on it. That's I love that. You know,
I feel like
so-
that's how true New Yorkers show their love. Is they shit
Yeah.
all over it.
Yeah, but if you're not from New York, don't fucking say shit. 'Cause
Well, yeah.
no.
George can say shit about New York. It's
well,
fine.
I mean, like generally, that's how New Yorkers are. You're allowed to. I don't care. I'm not from New York. but
He's made it in as
say
an
something about
honorary like
Philly. I
northeasterner
fucking
now. It's
dare
fine.
you.
You see, you're not from Philly either.
Well, like I said earlier, I love everyone. There is good and bad everywhere. It just depends on the person, I believe.
Not in Philly. There's only bad. I mean,
Well,
It's that way of thinking. Yeah.
Fair.
Well, like like there was one song called "The Streets of Philadelphia." And it was about an AIDS movie. So how it's like,
yeah.
it's like how bad is that? It's like that's what you relate to. The streets. It's like,
Thank God for whichever God that you want to choose for Elton John, Philadelphia Freedom.
yes, yeah.
Yeah, fine, like good song about Philly. Yes, probably I think it's the only one actually. So.
How can you tell Elton John never went to Philadelphia?
Oh, we got to ask him.
If I could get Elton John on this podcast, hook us up, George.
That'd be
Come
a
on.
pretty big
Yeah,
get.
I'll try. I have about like maybe a degree or two of Kevin Bacon to Elton John. So, we'll do our best.
Don't you know all British people living in?
Yes,
Come on,
that's
how that
that's
works.
how it works. That's exactly how it works.
Yeah.
Soon.
You're working on it.
I'm working on it for sure. I was at the thing. There was this event where Elton John was at, but I don't. We didn't really talk Mothman. If you know what I mean.
God dang.
Yeah,
I do wonder what his favorite cryptid is. That is my now question for everyone.
Flatwoods Monster.
I could see it.
Yeah.
Me too. There's a lot of pizzazz in the Flatwoods.
Yeah, something garish. It would have to be something with a lot of flair.
Okay, so we can find Hex and the Droving and Haunted Forests of England and Terrors of the Sea and Damnation Village. Where?
Yeah, so if you wanna follow all of our films, you can go on most platforms, but on Twitter we'll be at Rubicon Films UK. And then if you're interested particularly in the SIDEWORLD series of the documentaries, you can go at SIDEWORLD UK. And then you'll be able to find Rubicon Films also on Facebook and then on Instagram. And SIDEWORLD has an awesome group on Facebook too, if you're a boomer. And then a bunch of other places. I'm also on Twitter at the George Popov. So I do pop off sometimes there. And then that's yeah, indeed. And that's mostly it. No, yeah, we're everywhere. Just Google SIDEWORLD if you want to follow up on the documentaries, and then yeah, Rubicon Films or myself will take you to get our feature films. You can watch them all on SIDEWORLD is on. I think all of them will be on Tubi, which is great, and a bunch of other places, Amazon Prime if you're into that kind of stuff.
That's where
and most
I
other
watched.
platforms. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
On Amazon, on Roku, you have so many platforms in America. I'm a bit jealous. There's a bunch. So
Yeah, we have freedom over here.
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
We call that freedom over here.
So you can watch SIDEWORLD on the Freedom Channel as well.
that is
That
actually,
is actually a channel.
There is actually a Freedom Channel.
That's so fucking stupid.
I can't believe he actually said it. He fell right into that trap.
I'm sorry.
He's subscribing today.
So don't worry, we also think it's fucking stupid too.
Oh, sorry. That's
True.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm getting shot by an AR-15. Oh man.
Oh,
Oh, no.
please God, no.
Oh jeez.
Oh.
No, if you listen to all my other podcasts, like I shit on British people and I bond with Americans, so this was funny. I didn't mean to laugh so much about the Freedom Channel.
So if you're
No, you're fine.
If you shit on British people, then I have to ask.
Yes.
Since I was making a joke before you came on, you eat beans on toast for breakfast? Or...
Yeah, what's your favorite British delicacy?
Do you enjoy beans on toast in the morning hours? Or
well, it's funny you say that because like we were at this event when we're doing a Damnation Village screening, and then there was a Q&A after that, and the whole crew we went, and then afterwards we were talking about that, and I said that that's one way how I differed from the rest of them, because like I don't consider putting some beans from a can on a toast a meal. And they tried to convince me with very eloquent language, and I just wouldn't have it. I said I'm dropping this conversation because I just couldn't do it.
how do you speak elegantly of canned beans?
That's Britain. That's what they do. They take something that's incredibly simple and anyone just goes duh, and they talk about it as if it's like the bee's knees. Like that's just it. Used to conquer the world at some point. Now they just have beans on toast. So
oh, how the mighty hath fallen.
and they need a Bulgarian guy to go into their folklore. So this is how it is. No, I'm joking. All of that is just ribbing. I obviously love the country as well. That's why I'm here. But that like again, like if I sound like a broken record, I really apologize, everyone. But that goes with every country. There's something I love and joke about every single one of them. And the ones I joke about the most are the ones that I definitely I feel like a family member. I feel like it's somewhere I've been, and it's deserves the honor of joking about it. So. I love all these places, and there's great people everywhere. But like laughing about all of our stupid things. I said it earlier about Bulgaria. We talked about America, but yeah, UK has a few of them, and gosh darn it, is beans on toast one of them. So, I don't know. Like with the 100-year war with France, they didn't take any of that. They didn't.
They took the French bread for the toast. That's
yeah. No, that's about it. But but the French didn't learn about sense of humor though, so that's probably a good trade-off. So it's fine.
Did the British?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know
come
they
on,
had
man.
a
Benny
sense of humor.
Hill. Monty Python.
Okay.
No, that's
okay. Okay.
Yeah,
I guess.
Sense of humor wise, I think the British there's a bunch. I think it's like, well, this is the fun part, because you guys like sound a lot of like part of the British humor that I like, which is there's a lot of funny self-deprecating. I think it's the Philadelphia thing. I think that's the old Europe,
We're
Yeah.
self-aware around here.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
People
funny.
don't like us very much. That's
But they don't have to like us because we know we're better than them.
No one hates us more than ourselves.
That's true. That's true, and that's that I really like, and usually when there's like an East versus West sort of like stupid conversation, because obviously Bulgaria used to be on the wrong side of the Iron Curtain, and with these days when someone says something stupid like in the West there's a bunch of bullshit, and I'm like yes there is, but they say it first, right? You can do that even though the stupid things keep happening.
Yeah.
But like one of the most amazing anti-American in terms of not the sentiment, not the spirit of it, but in terms of the government, right? The silly things that the government can do. Some of the best ones are American works of art, right? Like all through the 70s, all my favorite films are basically shitting on the government. Like so.
Yeah.
and the every country that really kind of looks and like the best people, honestly, not to get too philosophical again, but are the ones who look inwards and go like, oh, am I a bad person? Is this bad?
Are we the baddies?
Yeah, are we the baddies? Exactly. And I think every country, especially if it thinks itself as being great, like this, Britain and thinks it is, and the US and all these big ones that I've been watching from the side as a kid. Like, if it really is big and important, like one of the most important things that kind of earns those stripes, I think it's looking inwards and saying, what kind of an example are we setting? So yeah, I think that's the biggest pro Western democracy thing we can say, and keep shitting on it until we get it right. Again, it's probably the idealistic part of me, but I think there's a resurgence of all the cool people. Like, I see them more and more in the world, like, as all of us just liking each other as individuals rather than who's born where or done doing what. So we just love the things we love, and to sound more like that final thing again. Thanks for having me, because it's been great.
Oh, absolutely. And you are like a 10,000 times over allowed to come back anytime you want. We love talking with you.
Oh, thank you.
All right, guys. So as always, stay spooky and don't die. But if you do, contact us.
Yeah, just while we're on that topic, just ring the Liberty Bell and we'll hear you.
Thanks again for listening to Scary Time by Indie Drop-In Network. If you would like to nominate a scary or paranormal podcast to be featured, just send me a tweet at Indie Drop-In. I'd also love to hear if one of our featured podcasts is now your favorite show. Indie Drop-In survives off ad revenue and listener donations. If you would like to contribute, please consider buying me a coffee. You can go to buymeacoffee.com/Indie Drop-In. If you look at the very bottom of the episode description, you will see a link to make it easy. Indie Drop-In also has many other shows you might like. Just go to indiedropin.com. See you next week.